This is a presidential election, bringing the much of the tribute to its successors, the McKenna Law Firm at 509-765-4451. The regulation and service of presidential primary election at policy regulation of the increments of society of its campaign and ballot forms, bringing the administration office to its successors. We're going to hit the primer switch, called primer start, the policy regulation of McKenna Law Firm. This is the most powerful chainsaw in the world. Now that warranty is covered, you have filters, assemblies, catalytic converter, emissions, clamps, services, spark plugs, primer switches. All these steel products are warranted. And bringing that income to society of President's primary election, Mr. Donald J. Trump, running against Mr. Joe Biden, the 46th President of the United States of America, and Kamala Harris, Mr. Waltz. Now, Mr. Kennedy brought the successors in the service administration and bringing it to the community, and bringing that joint services of the Presidential primary election, 47th, and bringing the honored increments of society and the policy of certificate from the National Republican Committee, and bringing that increments of society of services in weeks away. Now, President's primary election, November, bringing that election campaign and ballot forms and services, and bringing the October 31st of 2024, the deadline November 5th of 2024, YouTube URL at the Grant County Courthouse, and also the Benton County Justice Department. Mr. Ryan Ludskin, Eric Ajmer, Norma Rodriguez, and also Andy Miller and Dana Garr from the Prosecutor's Office, Washington Bar Association in Grant County, 35 C Street, Northwest, Fredo Watch 9823. Now, the presidential election, buying the presidential election by the COVID-19 authorization executive order by Donald J. Trump and, of course, Tiffany, Donald Trump Jr., and also the Queen of London. President primarily Mr. Bill Gates, 1835. He's income society since he modified Air Force One and Air Force One and components and services. These connections, Microsoft connections, Apple connections, McAfee connections, and also the Windows access, Windows 10, 11 access, and also Microsoft components and services have been modified with Verizon components, sub-accounts, and against the campaign of Donald J. Trump and Kamala Harris, Vice President, and Kamala Harris versus Waltz. And bringing the presidential primary election to the successors, Mr. 43rd President George Bush, and George Bush, the 43rd President, running the campaign and service, because we got Ronald Reagan in the background here, and Mar-a-Lago, Florida. So we got the statement, policy, regulation, and service, and President Ronald Reagan, George Bush, and also Jimmy Carter, and also Mr. Nixon, and the Vice President of Services, bringing income society of this policy, regulation, and service for FedEx, UPS confirmation, signature verification, to bring that income society to successors, bringing that income society about the Democrats and parties and successors and the fake news and the income society download, submitting information, URL, famous shoe, URL, the gun store in here in Moses Lake on Stratford Road, download and submitting the gun permit and the concealed gun permit, and also the fishing license, water license, and freshwater license, and also the hooks, the baits, the poles, the flywheel, the fly reel, the boat, the RV attachments, the tonnage, also the vests for the water deterrence and service for floating above the water, and that service is OSHA ordinance and policy regulation in presidential primary election. Now, presidential primary election is a serious consequence because the voting policy regulations are asking for the ballot forms to be counted. And when they're counting the ballot forms, they bring the ballot forms into so we make sure each ballot form is counted for. Like this one. Confirmation signature verification. John Luke McKenna is 509-765-4451. Fax 509-765-1619. McKenna Law Firm, PS Courts. Washington Bar Association 13294. Dana Garrett, Carla McKenna, John Luke McKenna, Dana Garrett, Kim Wayman, Secretary of State Steve Hobbs, and also the Policy Regulation Executive Order that presidential document, Mr. Steve Hobbs came in standing side by side together. Fingerprints the society that the presidential primary election ballots are counted for, all immediate ballots. And the secretary, Mrs. Mary Cantwell, and Mrs. Mary Cantwell, and don't forget senators and policy regulators. We got 2 senators here in one state, and we have Mr. Dent and Mr. Judith Warnick. And the policy regulations, our offices here in Mos Lake, and also the congressional services of Dan Newhouse and Mr. Dent, and also the Service Policy Regulation and Information Society of download submitting information. So I'm going to put a primer switch on. This is a style BR200. This is a style BR200. Has an oil, components, manifold, exhauster, has straps, bar, toggle switch, accelerator, some tubes, extension tubes, accelerator starter, cold cranking amp primer switch, this is a style BR200, most powerful steel chainsaw on the planet, and this has a blower, style blower. Also has attachments to be a mulcher and also a blower, but this one is connected to one exit. Another one has a exhaust manifold converter switch here. Switch out your filter, your air filter, your catalytic converter, your spark plug, all those situated manners. So for the choke, cold choke, the primer switch. Put the accelerator on.